hockeysverige.se här med The Hockey News prospect-reporter Ryan Kennedy, som har varit vänlig nog att stanna till här för oss och dela ut lite awards här. Han ska plocka ut de prospects som han tycker har varit bäst under JVM, de 3 stycken som har imponerat mest på honom. And Ryan, to start with, you mentioned Canadian defenseman Ryan Murray.
Yeah, Ryan Murray, he had a really tough game against the Russians in the semifinal, got torched basically for the first 3 goals, but overall I think he proved in this tournament just what an asset he can be. He plays for Everett in the Western Hockey League, and he's been doing everything for them for a couple of years now. He was the youngest captain in franchise history last season, and he's just such a great skater. People have already compared his skating to Scott Niedermayer, and for me, when I've seen him, the interesting thing is he can really play physical as well. He's a very skilled, talented guy, but he will take the body as well, which you kind of have to do out west. And I thought, at this tournament, Canada used him largely in a shutdown role. They didn't really need a lot of offense from him, but he did get a couple of points. And I thought he did very well, especially for a defenseman his age.
And the second guy you mentioned, of course, is the one everyone expects to be picked number 1 in the NHL draft this summer, which is Nail Yakupov of Russia.
Yeah, Nail Yakupov, we've seen him a couple of times this year because he plays for the Sarnia Sting in the Ontario League, and I was quite impressed with him. I think the big thing was we know he can score goals, but he had to take on a role at this tournament, and 9 assists in those games. That was pretty impressive for me. I thought also, in the final against Sweden, when things just weren't going right for Russia, they weren't getting any shots on net, he had one shift in particular where he just hit everybody in sight. Really great banging checks. He was trying to make something happen. You can see the competitive desire he has, and it's kind of too bad because Mikhail Grigorenko of the Quebec Remparts, who was also on Team Russia, he's sort of seen as sort of 1A or 1B to Yakupov in the rankings right now, but he was felled by a lower body injury earlier in the tournament, so you can't really say, you can't really compare the two in terms of what they accomplished here. And for me, I always had Yakupov a little bit ahead, and he did nothing to dissuade me at this tournament.
And last, thankfully you picked a Swede here, Sebastian Kohlberg of Frölunda, and what's your impression of him?
Well, for me, I thought Kohlberg did the most for his draft status at this tournament. I think coming in, people saw him maybe as sort of a mid-first rounder because he's not huge. I think he's about 5'11", 5'10", and then Philip Forsberg is obviously a couple of inches taller, a little bit bigger. But Kohlberg's speed and his hands, I thought were exceptional. And I also liked in the final against Russia, I saw him use both his speed and his hands to diffuse Russian attacks. Obviously it was a game where there was only 1 goal scored and it was in overtime, so the Swedes always had to be pressuring the Russians both on the forecheck and on the back check, and I thought Kohlberg, again, he played a role. He had a lot of points in this tournament, which was also good. I believe he ended up as the Swedes' second leading scorer after Max Friberg, but when they needed a defensive stop against the Russians, he showed that he could do that as well, and that was very impressive for me.